Coming to you live from the frozen tundras of Washington, D.C., which generally isn't this cold. Certainly hasn't been this cold for many years. But we will warm ourselves by the fire of Tefillah. Learn some Mishnah this morning a little bit. So we are continuing in the laws of Tefillah. This Siman really should be called miscellaneous laws of Tefillah. Really, that even though Machaber himself calls it, he has its own name. It's should really be known, as miscellaneous laws. It says, where to play, where to pray, and Dama Tzibur, and traveling. It's really should be miscellaneous laws in and around concerning Tefillah. But I digress. We've learned all types of interesting stuff. How not to stand outside, don't look like you don't belong in there, and don't run away from shul, run to shul. Let's talk about getting to shul early. Okay? So we already talked about not being a nice neighbor. Let's talk about being a nice neighbor. So 14. We're not 14. Yadalid. Get up early. Be one of the first 10 in shul. That's what it says. Okay. So you should be counted as part of the first 10, is what he says. So the Mishnah explains. That's for people davening there with them. So to just sit in shul and not daven doesn't count. So you have to be, you're gonna daven. It has to be you're gonna daven there. So if you're sitting and learning, it's not what we're talking about. Okay, so he says it brings down to the Ari was never one of the first ones because I guess it says that he was ill. And he did. When he was with his students, he was only with them for a few years. All of his materials recorded by Rav Chaim Vital. And the other thing is that not only should you be the first person in shul, you should go to shul wrapped in the talis and wearing the tefillin. And, you can't do this if it's really early in the morning. Like nowadays, you probably, like the sunrise here in Washington area, this morning was at 7:24, adjusted for elevation. So if shul starts, it's 6:45 or whatever, okay, that makes sense. But if you're starting at 6:15 or whatever, that's so early. Okay? And so in the Zohar it brings down that you should actually have a little procession of 10 people. I've never seen that. Halacha 15. Okay, if anyone is left davening in shul, this is actually a very nice halacha. If there's anyone left davening in shul by themselves, and it's a shul that's sort of outside of the city, okay, or it's in the city and it's after the evening prayer, okay. Which is the Ramah adds that you say it at night, meaning many times we say Mariv while it's still daylight out. So this halacha applies when it's at night and dark outside. So it is incumbent upon another person there to wait until this last person finishes his prayer, in order that they not be disturbed in their prayer and then think to themselves, "Oh, I'm all by myself. This is terrifying." Some people say this should even be done during the day as well, and even our shuls that are in the city, okay, and they're quoting a bunch of Ashkenazi poskim for probably good reason, because the shkatzim were always out to get us in Europe back in the day. And if a person is just schlepping their tefillah out, which the Shulchan Aruch says he lengthens it with his own personal supplications, you don't have to wait for that. Right, someone who's there adding a lot of stuff to davening should be pretty secure in their being by themselves. Okay, so what does it mean to wait for them? So the Mishnah explains that you get there at the same time. However, if this person gets there at a time when they know, like they get there at a time by themselves when they know they're not going to finish their tefillah with everybody else, you don't have to wait. Because since you see he's clearly not able to keep pace with everybody else, and he still came in, therefore this person's not going to be scared of being in shul by themselves. However, it's still nice to wait for them anyway. So there you go. Nice to wait for the last people in shul. In my shul, for the last people, they always say, "Please turn off the lights." If you're traveling along the path, we're on halacha 16. There we go. This is one of the 27 that's in this Siman over here. You're traveling along the path, and you come to a town, and you want to stay at that town. If between where you are and where you're going, there is what's known as Arba Milin. So you have about an 18-minute walk, which Mr. Berurah explained. Arba Milin is they call it a mil, like we call it miles. It was a length of distance, and each one of those was about 4.5, 5 minutes long. So we say about Arba Milin is about 18 minutes. So, and you know you can get a minyan there. You need to go there. However, to go backwards, maybe if you only just recently left, within 1 meal, okay? So don't leave town without davening with a minyan. And if you're traveling to the next place, you should get there if it's within 18 minutes of your travel. Okay, and you want to stay there. So what we're talking about sounds like a late day travel. However, the Mishnah Berurah adds this also is if you are traveling in the daytime and you're going to have more than 18 minutes or Arba Milin between the place where you're currently at and the place where the next place is. So you should wait there until you get the minyan and then travel to the next place, assuming that you're not going to miss out on Kriya Shema and Tefillah. Okay? So that's what he's saying. So if they're going to not make it there in time within that 18 minutes, then you should daven now and not wait till later. Okay? Okay, now when we're saying traveling forward, it means that if you're continuing straight ahead on your journey, but if you're traveling to the sides, like let's say you're traveling up, I'll use a good example. You're traveling up 95. You're driving from somewhere, let's say in Maryland, and you're traveling up towards New York City. There's a lot of Jewish communities through there. And as you pass, if you're going straight along 95, and you'll hit a community right there to go daven with the minyan, you should stop and daven with the minyan. But if you have to go out of your way, like if you're going up towards New York, and you're gonna have to, it's gonna only take you about 20 minutes to get to Lakewood to go for a minyan, you wouldn't have to stop for that, because that would be more than the requirement of the Mishnah, of this halacha. Okay, it's like going backwards. But if it's within a few minutes, then you should stop off and grab the minyan. Okay, and another requirement the Mishnah adds is that this is assuming you're not going to be traveling by yourself, that you're going to be traveling on a busy road. Okay, and also it means that you have lots of time during the day to get to your place and not stop up for the minyan, because even if you get there, you could still get there while there's still sun on the ground, because otherwise you don't have to travel at night to get to a minyan, because of this requirement that a person should enter a city b'kitov while there's still some light outside. He's making a reference to a Gemara. He doesn't actually reference it. He's referring to the Gemara at the beginning of Pesachim, that the only kines adam b'kitov yotze b'kitov. That person should enter the city with good and leave with good. So there should always be lots of light when you start your journey. He then quotes the Prima Gadam that if a person is traveling along the path and while you're traveling, you have a minyan for mincha, immediately first thing in the day, one could go ahead and daven at that time. Okay. Traveling backwards, he says that if you remember that if you're sitting in your house, then you basically, it's always considered, you only have to travel about 1 mil to travel from your house to get to a minyan. So therefore, a person who lives inside the city within a mil of any shul needs to go daven there. All right. So if you have like a 5-minute walk or drive to this place, you need to go to shul every single morning and every single evening. Okay, but not at night so much, because you don't have to travel at night. Okay, so if it's difficult to travel at night, that's okay. Okay, but a person should still make an effort, he says, to make a minyan when you're in the city already. And he says what he actually says here is that it is a clear rebuke of those people who are in the city and are too lazy to go for mincha mariv. That's what he's actually saying here. All right, halacha 17. So this one starts off with the Shulchan Aruch is quoting a singular opinion. There is a singular opinion who says that a person should not get up early to go from a city where there is a minyan if they could get to the other city and still catch the minion before leaving there. Okay. So he could, meaning he could still pray at his current city, and then go to the next place to get his next destination. Okay. And that's also assuming that he wouldn't be left alone after the prayer service. Okay, so we're basically saying is that if you could make the minyan before leaving, make the minyan and then go on your journey. Okay, and the Mishnah Berurah explains that it's talking about when you're leaving for something that's just something you want to do. Okay, and that's what he says. So the Prima Gadim over here, the Mishnah brings down that this seems to imply that this is only permitted because you're not going to make a minyan and say Shemona Esrei with a minyan. However, it sounds like without this, you could start your travel, but the truth is you can't do that. You still have to daven, which we learned that in Siman Peites. All right, we said that in 89.3. We said you have to daven first before you could do anything. So, based on what the Ramah says on 89.3, it would make sense if you've said the blessings early on, right, and then you can go ahead and leave because it's only a minute Rabbanan, and you don't have to worry about not finishing it in time. Okay, so and nonetheless, we're still saying this opinion still says you still shouldn't leave because you shouldn't leave without catching a minyan. Now, if you left in the morning, let's say where you live there's a minyan, and where you work there's a minyan. So if you could get up and leave and then go catch a minyan closer to where you work, you could do that, because the idea is that as long as you're not going to miss the minyan, it's basically a wash either way. But if when you're leaving you're not going to catch a minyan, then you really should attempt to try to catch a minyan and say Shemona Esrei with 10 before heading out to things you need to do. Again, this is those type of things. But if it's a mitzvah, like you're going to go do a bris milah, or you have to go do a chasana, okay, those type of things. And the other exception of it is that you don't have to go travel by yourself. So he says over here, if there is a caravan going, okay, then and you don't want to wait for that caravan or wait for the minyan, then it's permitted to leave. Okay. Halacha 18. So here we learn something. We're taking a departure. We're going to talk about a comparison between a place where you learn and a place where you daven. So it says a beis medrash kavua, an established place of learning, has more holiness than a beis knesses. And it's better to daven in a beis medrash than in a beis knesses. Okay, so the learning place is better, assuming that there is a minyan. Okay, minyan always wins. Minyan always trumps. Now, the Ramah brings down that there are those who say that even without 10, it's still preferable to daven in your beis medrash that's set up for you, and that's assuming you have someone whose Torah is their main profession, and they don't stop learning it from this at all. This comes from the Gemara in Brachos, and he quotes the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah for this. So it was actually common in Talmudic times for people to sit and do all their davening in one place and not have to constantly run after a minyan because they were constantly involved in Torah learning. And nonetheless, the Ramah adds, a person should not do this regularly so that other people who are not so learned would learn to do this as well. And without this, they would go ahead and not attend shul at all. And so much the more so that if they would not come and then learn Torah in the shul at the time when the community is doing their slichos, okay? That the people shouldn't learn from them not to do those things. So a lot of big gedolim used to do this, and I know, like for example, Moshe Feinstein's, that's all he had. He had in his office. He had actually an aron in his office, and sometimes he just didn't want to go back to the yeshiva to go daven, so he would daven there in his office. And sometimes people would come and have the minyan in his house, but he made sure to be at the regular davening in the yeshiva. So that way people didn't do that, but he was able to go ahead and do that, and it's reported in Masoras Moshe that he used to do that. Let's talk about davening with the minyan. So even if the basic Knesset has more people, And we learned that there's a general rule of Barav Am Hadras Melech, that there's more glory to God by having lots of people. Nonetheless, the base measure still trumps that. And that's only for someone who is learning there, and they do it in order not to take a break from too much learning, right? Because to get up, to go to shul, to do this, that, you got to stop what you're doing to go do this. It's ridiculous, right? I can just daven right here. So that's the only reason why it was an exception. Otherwise, you should go pray with more people because it's more glory to Hashem. It's all people gathering together. And the Prima Gadam writes this as well. It also seems pretty obvious, the Mishnah Berurah explains, that this is in a base medrash that's your regular personal office. And you learn there all the time. Because that is a place where the holiness is great, but not as great. Okay? And the Magen Avraham says this in another place. Because in a regular base medrash, where everyone's learning there, and there's a big culture there, people learning all the time, obviously a person should learn there and daven there more than even in a shul. So this exception was made for people who had private Batei Midrashos. And therefore it's better to daven in the main yeshiva, or in the main base medrash, than it is in the shul. Because you're going to have more people there. Okay? Even someone who's not learning there, the holiness is still greater because you're kind of getting kedusha by osmosis, basically. You're getting additional holiness by being in the presence of all the scholars who are learning. And therefore, the reason why for this is to basically say that Hashem loves those places where there's lots of halacha being learned. Okay, so that's basically what it comes down to. So a person should always make it to a minyan in shul. But if there's a base medrash with a regular minyan, the base medrash is better than shul. And that's assuming both have a minyan. Otherwise, you need to go to the place with a minyan. And there's a special exception for people who are learning all the time, and they don't want them to drop their learning to come to the main shul. Special exception. Now, the Mishnah Berurah explains that exception a little bit more. What that means is that a person doesn't really leave their learning except for their most basic needs, and also they focus on their learning. So therefore, that person shouldn't go to shul, even if there's not 10 people, even in the shul, is what it sounds like, because basically he's stopping learning to go do this. Okay, and by traveling, and the Gra brings down that a person who is a full-time Torah scholar and their money is made simply by learning full-time, even in this a first approach that maybe you don't even need 10, and especially if you're going to teach a large gathering of people Torah, and you're going to have lots of students there in the base medrash, that a person should not go to shul because the need of teaching Torah precedes the davening. These are very, very unique exceptions. Otherwise, everyone should be going to shul. Okay. However, as the Rama warns, don't let people start to follow your behavior, because some people will just think to do it because they're like, oh, it's such a holy thing to pray by yourself, and they won't think it's because of the fact that there's separate exceptions for the person who learns all the time, and so people will just say, ugh, whatever. He doesn't go to shul, I don't have to go to shul. Right? And so they would just think that if he doesn't daven, I don't need to daven either. So that's why you should be careful to show up at shul every so often. And also, not only should you be there for the time when they're praying, but also for paying attention for Kriyas Torah. So pay attention during Kriyas Torah, and you can look at Siman Kuf Mem Vav, talking about paying attention while the tzibur is reading the Torah. So what you can do is open the Chumash up and read. I used to see some people who didn't pay attention. I didn't think that was right. And so he brings it down over here as well. So if a person has already davened, and they're only standing there to answer Kaddish and Kedusha, okay, and also to respond to people who are going to be saying Baruch Hu for the Shema, okay, and also they're going to help people go through the prayer service, but this person sits and learns all day. This is okay, and that seems to be all right. That you can go ahead and keep on learning from this Ramah statement, okay. It's only when a person looks like they are separating themselves from the congregation. Okay, so that person shouldn't do learning and stuff like that when the tzibur is trying to do slichos and tachanunim. and doing Kriyas Torah. But that's only when you're davening with them. Okay? So if you've already finished it and you're just hanging out so that we can catch more Kaddishes just for funsies, then you don't have to worry about learning Torah at that time. That's okay. Let's get one more halacha. A person should, this is what we like to call makom kavua. A person should establish a specific place in the synagogue for one's prayer, and not a different place every time, if there's not a specific need. And it doesn't suffice to simply pick a place in the shul. And it's not simply to pick the same shul, but to pick the same place in that shul. Okay, so this is the halacha that tells you about what's called makom kavua. I'm very picky about this. I like to pick my place and like to mark my territory. I mark my territory with svarim. I suggest that that's how you do it too. Talis bag, whatever it is you want to do. So the Mishnah Berurah brings down that you should establish a place, because we find that with Avraham Avinu, okay, it says, "Vayash came Avraham baboker el hamakom asher amad sham es pnei Hashem," and so on. All right, because it says that by Avraham he used to pick a specific place to meet Hashem, and it sounds like that was the morning prayer. Also, not only in shul should you pick a place, but also at home. Okay, so that way it shouldn't be disturbed by people at home. Personally, I don't daven at home very frequently. It's only if it's like a great need. But for people who will daven at home regularly because they have their kids around and there's a way to watch them and need to daven, they should pick a specific place in the house. And so too, when we say, when you pick a special place, anywhere within your place, so pick a spot, and then anywhere within Arba Amos, within like 6 feet of that spot, would be okay. Because you can't always like land on the same spot every single time. Okay, and I think we'll pick up, because we're going to talk more next time about how to prepare yourself for prayer in the morning. So we've learned so far about how to get to shul, how to behave in shul, that you should focus on the davening, that you should come there a little early, be part of the first 10, and pick a specific place to sit in shul. So we have a lot of things. So daven in shul, face the Aron. It's funny how they bring all these rules in here about don't do this. Straightforward. I'm going to make a separate halacha class on just how to get yourself ready for shul, like for your first time entering a shul, and then how to do it every day past that. So, thank you for joining our shir this morning. Keep on the lookout for the halacha class. I just came up with an idea to create, and we will see you all next time in Mishnah, Berurah, Siman Sadi, and we'll pick up with Chaf over here with number 20, and I think we'll finish next week. So good long Siman. Take care.